Good afternoon. This is Sherrod DuPree, and I'm in Gainesville, Florida today, and doing an interview. The day is Thursday, and the day is the 30th of April, the last day of the month of 2015. All right, would you give me your name?
Yes, my name is Michael Harris. I'm the son of James Harris and Lily Glanton. My mother's from Alabama, my father from Fitzgerald, Georgia. Dothan, Alabama is where my mother is from. And I was born in Webb Quarters at 520 Northwest 6th Place in Gainesville, Florida. And I was raised there, and at one point we moved just next door to 522. That is where I experienced at one time, my father apparently had gotten behind in the rent, and the rent man, they came and took off the front and back doors of the house. And I was, of course, afraid. I must have been 7 or 8, I can't remember for sure, but my father put blankets up to the door and reassured me that not to be afraid, that he was going to be there. And I experienced a very, I remember it to this day, traumatic incident in the alley, we called it, Webb Quarters. It was one way in and one way out. And me and the younger kids around, we were seeing all the grown folks crying and just grieving, and we could not figure out why they were crying. And then we found out that they were crying because President Kennedy had been killed, and that was pretty much their only hope for someone to get in office that was going to be fair and just serve true justice.
Yes, now this was in November of 1963 in Dallas, Texas. For the reader who would come back and listen to this later, and that was in the month of November, and he and his wife were in Texas. And of course, he was shot as he was riding in this big limousine. And now they don't have the open limousines anymore for presidents. That changed the situation. But anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit.
Thank you. And I remember President Kennedy's most famous words: ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? That stuck with me throughout my life, and only to find out, as of right now, I would ask President Kennedy or his descendants, what country was he talking about? Because I posted up, volunteered for the military after I had grown up, and I have not been treated as if this was my country in a lot of cases.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Now, we mentioned your parents' name. Now, did you have sisters and brothers?
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. My oldest, there were 3 siblings.
Yes.
My oldest sister was named Betty, and which she has deceased now. And my next sister name is Barbara Jean. Well, it was Betty Jean and Barbara Jean. And I was the last button, so to speak. I'm Michael Harris. But as well, my father had a family, a first wife. So I have like, let's see, 1 sister and 3 brothers from another.
Named them?
Johnny Henry. My grandmother raised him, and Elizabeth Adams. And she's in Philadelphia, where my aunt had raised her when the family got split up after their mother passed. And my brother Walter Harris and Junior Harris, my mother helped to raise them in the alley at 522 Northwest. She helped my father with them at some time.
What was his first wife's name?
Oh my God.
Well, that's okay. We can move forward. Did he marry her in Florida?
No. I think they were married in Georgia.
In Georgia?
Yeah.
And you have an idea of what year or the time span there?
I really don't. I know it was Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Okay, Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Right, Fitzgerald. 312 South Monica Drive. I'll never forget that address.
In Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Right, that was my grandmother's address. Yeah.
And so, how did your first? How did she pass away? Was she sick or?
Yes, she just pretty much passed away of old age. She was, I would think, maybe around 86 or close to 90. And now that we're talking about that, I remember my granddaddy, Mr. Henry, which was, or better yet, my father was adopted.
Okay.
My father was adopted.
That's right.
And
this is fine. You can slide.
And we tried at one time to try to find out about him, but we never could. And the closest we came was a story that my grandmother's sister had gotten pregnant from a white man. And she kind of disappeared, went north or whatever. And then my grandmother, Henry, she went north, and when she come back, she had my father with her.
What was your grandmother's name again?
Jimmy Henry.
Her name was Jimmy?
Yeah.
Henry.
Right. It's a picture of her up there and my dad. Right there.
All right, I'll get it down. This is it right here?
Yes. And because she married Mr. Henry, and I don't know her name, her maiden name before then. And
I'm gonna let you hold that out, and we're gonna get a shot of that. And so these were people out of Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll just bring it down a little bit. Oh, I'm not doing too well with that. Here we go. All right, and would you name them again?
My grandmother's name is Jimmy Henry. That's what we called her.
All right.
And my father's name, James Harris.
He was a tall man.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
see where you got your height from.
Yes, ma'am.
And this was made when?
Whoa. Okay. I would say my father's been dead he passed right after I got out of service. He passed in 79. My baby daughter was born, so that would be, she's about 34. I would say about 50 years ago that picture was taken. 50 years.
About 50 years, so that's an heirloom.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, indeed. And how did your father get to Florida, to Gainesville?
Well, I know for one thing that my oldest sister, Betty, was born in Fitzgerald. She was born in Fitzgerald, and I am not for sure how my parents ended up here. I should have asked my mother, but they moved down here for one thing. They thought it was, more opportunities and a better place for them at the time. Yes. And what
type of work did he do?
He did it puck wood, and he eventually became a master mechanic, But well, he did pretty much anything for
survive.
Pick cotton.
Yes.
He did it all, and he was a good provider. And
I can imagine.
And I love him for it. We never missed no meals. We knew if all else failed, he had some Brenda stew in the freezer.
So you
made out of hog. Yes, ma'am.
That was a blessing right in itself. What church did he attend, if you all attended church?
Mount Hermon. That's where my mother went. And she would take him every chance. But later on in life, he was more attentive to the church.
Mount Hermon. Who was the pastor back at that time? Do you have any idea? Well, that's okay.
Really,
Did you go
I remember Deacon Milton.
Uh-huh.
And he was, for some reason, he sticks out in my memory.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mount Hermon, where was that located in Gainesville?
It was located at first over by in Porter's, like kind of next to the dairy Foremost Milk place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there used to be a little Foremost, I think, milk company, and it was down the road, not very far, near Porter's.
And Porter's was the black neighborhood.
Right.
One of the black neighborhoods here in Gainesville.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Actually, that was the first place of which my father and them lived. I was too young to know it, but my brother, Walter, he told me about it, that's where we used to stay. In Porter's Quarters.
Yes, Porter's Quarters is what they call it. And then after that, you moved to where you are.
At Webb Quarters.
Webb Quarters.
That's where I was born, in Webb Quarters.
All right.
At 520 Northwest 6th Place.
All right.
And
where did you go to school?
Aquin Jones. Aquin Jones.
Now, you went to elementary school there too?
Oh, yeah. And I was in the 6th grade, and me and all of my classmates, we just couldn't wait to graduate, go to 7th grade, because that meant we would get a chance to go to Lincoln High School. And boy, that was
a big
thing, big deal for us. But the first year we were there, that's when they started or in other words, it was rioting and all of that. They were closing down Lincoln. And I ended up going to Howard Bishop.
Yes, the middle school now.
Yes, ma'am. Howard Bishop. And after Howard Bishop, I ended up at Westwood Middle School.
Yes.
And from there, I became a Purple Hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that was Gainesville.
Yes, ma'am.
High School.
Gainesville High.
Located on 13th Street.
Yes, ma'am. And I played football, and unfortunately, I had thought I was grown, and I ended up quitting school. And one reason I quit school was because I was seeing all of the injustices being done and how the black people were still being treated. And then finally I seen somebody that were making an attempt to stand up for themselves, the black Muslims.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to be a Muslim. And I attended some meetings and all of this stuff, and my mom, strictly a Baptist, born and bred, and she was not having it, especially when I started talking about throwing out the Pope.
I can hear you. Yeah. She was used to cooking pork and having it in the household.
She said, "You damn fool, that's all we could afford."
And the chitlins probably at that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow. And I was, one of the biggest mistakes I made was quitting school. And my loving mother, she told me, "You grown, you need a place of your own." So she sent me packing, locked the door, came back one night, and the key, it fit the door, but it wouldn't open it. And I went around to my mom and dad's window, just beating, trying to get in. And I know now today that my mother wouldn't let him say anything, but after a while he goes, "Goddamn, Lily, let the boy stay here tonight. If he don't stay here no goddamn more, I got to go to work in the morning."
He had to have some rest.
Yes, ma'am. He brought me one more night, but after that, I was out on my own, and just fortunately, I survived. And
so how did you survive? Did you have some friends that you went to see and stayed with? What did you do?
Well, to be honest, I started hustling, and I soon found out that that was not the way to that was no life to live. I had money, but I couldn't spend it because, it was not legitimate money, and I could not, as much as I hate to say at that time, the only way I could survive was selling marijuana, and I did.
Yes, yeah.
And nothing that I'm proud of, but I survived.
Sure.
And then I never forget one night, police, the place where I was living, it had a front door and a side door. And they gave me good warning. They came and parked on the corner of a house for a few nights out there with the lights on, just sitting in the car, in the middle of the road. And I decided then that I had better find a better resource for, living legitimate. And that was my mission from then on. I didn't want any type of money unless it was legitimate and that I could spend it the way I want to, because I knew they knew where it came from, a record, and it was not dirty money. So I did that. And
when you stayed in Gainesville all the time? Yes,
ma'am.
I see. And so now, when did you leave Gainesville?
Well, my father had told me one day after I had stopped, he told me, he said, "Son, if you don't get away from around here, you're going to jail. And say, the Army will be a good place for you. Say, it'll make a man out you." And I had wanted to rectify my life, and I vowed that I'm going in the military and that I would never quit anything again. This journey has almost got the best of me, but I am not going to quit. I have faced so many double standards. If I could talk to President Kennedy or his offspring, when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country?" I would beg him to tell me what country was he talking about.
Well, we know what country he was talking about.
Yes.
And then, we know what happened.
Yes.
So now, talk a little bit about how you got into the military.
Well, I was a good kid, good son, and I knew after I had broke my mother's heart by quitting school, and I was going to listen to what my father told me. So I joined the military in October '78, and I was in field artillery. Honest John, ironically, Honest John missiles. That was my task. 15 Fox. That was the MOS, 15 Fox. And it was nothing to deter me. I didn't care what they was dishing out, how long they was dishing out. My mama taught me, don't run from them, run at them. And I can't run now, but I'm coming at you, baby. I'm coming at you.
Yeah, well, now tell me how you got in the military.
I volunteered, and that's where a lot of, I also got married while I was in the Army. I married my first wife, Judy Walker. And when we got married, she had a son, Derek. He was maybe about 3 years old. And, she was pretty much my first love. And then we had broken up, and I went to the Army. And she wrote me a letter, I'll never forget, something about the salt and the pepper, and I was the pepper, and I was the only thing missing, and that was all I needed to hear. So we got married, and she moved to, my first duty station was Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And we got married in Wichita Falls, Texas, which was not very far from Fort Sill, Lawton, Oklahoma. And the reason why we did that was because you could get married in a day. You didn't have to wait a couple of days for the blood test or whatsoever. And we lived in Lawton, Oklahoma, until I got my orders for Greece. And while we were there, she became pregnant with my first daughter. Her name is Ronche Michelle Harris, and she was born in Greece. My wife, it was considered a hardship tour when I got orders for the trip. I mean, for my next duty station. It was 12 months. They call it hardship tour, and they would not pay for your family, or at least not on hardship tours. And at that time, I was just a PFC. But my father told me, he said, if you want your wife over there, sell the car and fly over there. And he said, you can always buy another car.
That's true.
And I did what he said, even though I kind of hated the part with the car, but then I not hated it. I wished I could have had the both, but
You wanted both.
But of course I chose my wife to be with me. And when she arrived, her and my son Derek, they which is a 13-hour flight from New York airport to Greece, nonstop. And they refueled in the air. They had to cut the engines off and all that. A couple of scary moments. But after she got to Greece, after I met them at the airport. And when I met them, I was all bandaged up like a mummy because I had been in an accident up in Thessaloniki where I had this bad concussion. But anyway, I met them there and got them a motel, and I went back to the air base because when her plane was due, I was at the air base where they were taking glass out of my head from that accident. And unbeknownst to the technician that was removing the glass from my head, I was watching the clock because I knew I had to be at the airport to pick up my wife, and it was Helenicon Air Base, and right around, not very far, was the international airport. So I told him some lie about I had to go and take a smoke or something, and I left and went and picked up my wife and kid and got them secure in a motel. And then I came back to him, and he was wondering where I had been and what took me so long. He was a little angry at me, but I explained to him what I had to do. And anyway, he proceeded to continue to try to take glass out of my head. He would numb it up, and then he would pick the glass out of my head. And he did it until I couldn't bear it no more. And he told me that there was still glass in my head and that it should work out at some point. And I can feel it in my head now. It hasn't particularly worked out, but it's sharp edges that protrude from, and it almost like it wants to come through at some time or another. But my lovely daughter was born August 30th, and in Thessaloniki. And I will never forget, I was going around the hospital trying to find somebody that speak American, and finally everybody pointed me to the basement. And when I got down there, the gentleman told me, said, "No, I don't speak American, I speak English." I said, "Okay, well, what does Karitsi mean?" And Karitsi means girl. So that's when I found out that I had a girl.
You had a girl.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So now you all got settled over there in Greece with your wife, and how long were you there?
I was there for 12 months, hardship tour, and I think my daughter was born maybe, my wife had to be 7 or 8 months pregnant when she came. And so I would figure if my baby was born in August the 30th, must have been around June when I first went into the country. And she later came maybe a month later. And I had rented a flat in Langados. That's a small town not far from where I was stationed. It was up in the boonies because we were on a guard duty for bunkers, special bunkers, and had to have a security clearance and all of that good stuff. And had a nice flat and all of this stuff for my wife and family, and everything was going pretty good. But at that time, like I say, when she came, I had already been wounded had the concussion.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you had the concussion?
Yeah. Okay, by us being with the security clearances, they didn't want us going downtown or nothing like that. And what we were on, it was what they call a debt. That was like a small American base inside of a Greek facility. So the Greeks guarded the outside perimeter, and we guarded the perimeter on the bunkers. You know, no one could get to the bunkers without going through us, where we were guarding some secret material or whatever, should I say. And after I had the accident, the concussion, they still was sending me down there on guard duty and told me I didn't have to wear a steel pot because I was bandaged up like a mummy. Yeah. And I still had to go and pull guard duty, even though I was like not fully geared up, because I couldn't wear the steel pot. And I did, and then, and it's 3 people in the guard shack, where you have 4 on and 4 off, and you got entry control. That's the one that lets someone into the area, and the guy who keeps the log. I might have some of it a little wrong, but at one point I was entry control, and one time one of the lieutenants came down to be signed into the area, and I had went to let him in. I was entry control, and all of a sudden I must have blacked out there with a live M16, and the next thing I know, when I woke up, I was on the back in the back of a truck where they were taking me to the doctor. And after I had seen the doctor, I got relieved from the guard duty for a while because he had put me on Valium.
Okay.
On Valium. And then after a while, they figured out, or in other words, me taking that medication killed my security clearance. So they gave me a secondary MOS, of which I was a cook, a 94 B10, and I started cooking. And everything was coming along pretty well. I was excited being a new father and just staying the course so I could, provide for my family. And it wasn't long after that, I had another accident wherein after my security clearance was killed and I became a cook, I cooked up there for a while, but then I was transferred down to Athens, Greece. Athens, Greece. I started living there, but I still had to, or in other words, we would have to drive from Athens to our base, and it was a pretty good, I'd say it was about an hour, maybe 2 hours. So 4 o'clock in the morning, we are on our journey. And it was one day on and one day off. And one evening coming back, the Jeep had broken down, the vehicle had broken down, and we were trying to push it out of the road and push it into a parallel park. And we did get it in there, but when the guy who was driving, the specialist, I think his name was Holt, when he got out the vehicle, he forgot to put the emergency brakes on. And the car rolled back. It was on a slab. It was on an incline. The vehicle rolled back, and I got trapped. Both my knees got trapped between the two bumpers, the left one more so than the right, because I could move it out of the way a little bit. And there I went to the doctor and was on crutches for maybe about a week. And then they put me on, I think it was ice on my leg for first whatever hours, then after that heat. But I was relieved from duty for light duty for maybe about a week or better. And after that, I was walking on it and, everything seemed to be okay. And then what was really so disgusting, that really broke my heart, is that when I received orders to go back to the state, I was going to Fort Carson, Colorado. And when I got my orders said that I was going to be stuck in a gun unit. And that's where I was headed, to a gun unit. And I tried to no avail to tell these people that, I was having I had a head injury and that I was having problems with my ear and having headaches and stuff sometimes, and that my secondary MOS was cooking, and that I wanted to continue to cook because they took me out of there because it killed my security clearance and because of the medication I was on at that time. But the sergeant or commander or whatever, he told me when I tried to tell him, he said, "Harris, that's what your damn orders say, and by God, that's what you're going to do." So I just made my mind up. I'm just going to bite the bullet and do my time because I wasn't going to quit. That's for sure. So I did, and they would steady preach, we got our ass kicked in Vietnam, but never again. We were downrange, I bet you, almost 2 weeks out of each month, training. And they told us they wanted us to be able to do this in our sleep. And I was in a battalion. I was no longer in Honest John. I was now in these 8-inch Hauser unit where we were shooting these big 200-round projos, and extreme loud noise. And as a matter of fact, the gun was so big that there was a spade in the back of the track that had to be dug in, because the recoil, if it was not dug in, the recoil would flip the gun over. And I just endured all of this loud guns and all of this stuff, and was, still had, my headaches got more severe. And at one time I had blacked out there in the field. I had fell out, and next thing I know, I was headed. The medics had got me and took me there, and they, I think I might have been relieved for that day or whatsoever, but I was back down range with the guns again, and no one would listen to me about when I had cooked in the Army. I mean, when I was cooking in Greece, and that was what I should be doing, but they didn't want to hear that, and they didn't hear it. And I was going to the doctor about my problems with the ringing in my ears and my jaw popping, and they would literally figure when you going on sick call that you were just being lazy, and they would double time you over to the what do you call it? Wherever they see you at, the little medical facility. Mm-hmm. And I got so tired that telling them, and they wouldn't do nothing. They were telling me that I must be imagining this, and they wanted to send me to see the psychiatrist. And of course, that was an insult to me. So I just said, okay, forget it. I'm short. I got about 11 months. I had less than a year. I'm going to do my time, and I'm gone. I'm getting gone. And that's what I did. And boy, I tell you, when I got back home, it really started then. It was like they just added insult to injury, time and time again, out at the VA facility where I was going. I endured all kinds of double standards, and I had to listen to racial jokes.
Well, now let's backtrack a little bit. Was that the VA in Gainesville, or where were you at that time?
I was here in Gainesville. I had
so
returned
you came
home
back to Gainesville.
Yep, and this is my home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And time after time, they would, they would try to discourage me or detour me from seeking help.
Now, basically what they were saying, that you needed psychiatric care?
Yes.
At the VA hospital. Did they have the services here?
Well, after I had came back, I think around January of 79, mm-hmm. they sent me to a specialist, Dr. Mahan, and he found out that my jaw had been broken all of that time from that accident. And that was
healed up wrong then, huh?
Oh yeah. And that was somewhat, believe it or not, somewhat of a relief, because, they almost had me thinking that something was wrong, that it was me. And I knew all the time that it was something wrong with my head. And they sent me to the dentist. I'll never forget this. The dentist who seen and found out that after they read the report from Dr. Mahan, they told me that they were going to do me a favor and take me straight to the psychiatrist, because anybody that ever gets any money from the VA, they end up going to the psychiatrist. That's what they told me. Dr. Garino, I remember him well. And I think it was Dr. Thomas as well. So they took me out the side door, and sure enough, there was a psychiatrist's office over there. And I had said to myself, if I had made my mind up, they've been trying to send me to the psychiatrist forever, even in the Army. I said, well, if that's what I got to do for justice, then I'm going to just be crazy for justice. And I went. And boy, oh boy, let me tell you what they gave me for my head injury. Amitriptyline, Thorazine. They did everything in the book to get me on these medications and render me where I wouldn't even know who I was. Yeah, Thorazine and amitriptyline, that is some powerful stuff. And thank God I was wise enough to know that, hey, I do not need this stuff, because it doesn't agree with my system. It doesn't make me feel like, I'm not in charge when I take that stuff. So I stopped taking it. And I just figured that all they were trying to do was silence me. So I could not be able to even ask for justice. I wouldn't know who I was. And I just wonder how many countless veterans ended up on those drugs and wasn't able to continue their journey and fight their battle. So
now, how many years ago was this that they gave you those drugs?
Well, it was in the 80s, early 80s, because early 80s. And
did you know any other men that were taking the same kind of things? Didn't have any connections with anyone else?
No. And let me tell you,
how was your family handling all of this?
That's where I lost my family. I lost my wife, and that just tore me apart, because I loved my kids. And actually, when we came back from when I got out of the Army from I went to Fort Carson, Colorado, and I had to do about 11 more months, just a little less than a year. And then when I got home, my wife was pregnant when I got out, and when we came home, my baby girl was born March 6th, and her name is Eusebra Harris. Eusebra Elena Harris. And I named her, that's an Ethiopian name, Eusebra. It means precious jewel, because there were some Africans over there and some Ethiopians that I had knew. And she was born March 6th. Of course, that was the same year that I lost my father. And they said he had lung cancer, but how he died was that over at Alachua General Hospital, they sedated him to take a biopsy. But when they took him back to the bed, they did not tie him down. And apparently the drugs they gave him, he was out of his mind or whatever. And he tried to get out of the bed and he fell and hit his head. And when we came to see him, they were asking us, how long his eyes been like this? And I'm like, his eyes ain't never been like that, you know. And he didn't die from cancer. He died from their negligence. And I did my best to try and get a case, a lawyer to take the case. Nobody would take it. Even went as far as going over to Jacksonville. You know, the good old boy system had it all locked down. And I live with that today, that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they murdered my dad, you know. And I miss him so very much, and I loved him very much. And also my father was a white man, from Fitzgerald, Georgia. My mother, a black woman from Dothan, Alabama. For a long time we was coming up, my mama would tell us that our father was half Indian. And you know, after I grew up, and I always used to ask him, I said, well, Mama, why Dad is so light under his clothes? And she said he was half Indian. So, you know, it didn't matter what he was, because he was a loving father.
That's what.
And I loved him very much. He spoiled me rotten. And it's what's so sad, you know, me being a half-breed, I want to see the best of both sides. And it just tears me up, you know, when I see the injustices, you know. Why? You know, why can't we get along, you know? Why can't America keep this beast on a leash, which is racism? It is only destroying America. For all of the Klan in high places and conduct their rebel yell from afar, you are desecrating the flag, because America does not stand for that. America stands for freedom and justice for all. And I did my time, and I was not included. I cannot stand to listen to the Star Spangled Banner. I can't listen to it, because I know it does not include me. And every time I hear those Army commercials, it tears my heart out. And this last one, where they're talking about breaking down barriers, there's no barrier they can break down. Break down the damn racism barrier. Break it down. I am so sick and tired of it. It turns my stomach. And as for all of you who stand around and watch the good old boys play jokes and make fun of blacks and do all kind of dirty secret tricks, and you stand there and you say nothing, you can be anonymous, you can do something, you are a part of the problem. If you love America, stand up for it. As for the little young rich kids who want to discredit veterans, the draft need to be started back up, so maybe they'll get a chance to go somewhere and shit in their boots. And when they come back, they will know how to respect the damn flag and not be desecrated with their ignorance. And I had in the 80s at one time, up on one of the wards, I had to sign myself off the ward. This little young spoiled intern or whatsoever, a little redhead gentleman, dare I say, gentlemen, I could think of more choice words, but he was there talking to me, you know, whatever. I was on the nut ward. Yeah, that's where they send you when you ask for justice. You crazy. So anyway, he was sitting like on top of the desk and I was in the chair, and I noticed he was just kept swinging his foot, and he put his foot on me, and I could not believe it, and I say, did you just put your foot on me? I actually gave him time to say I was sorry or something. He didn't say nothing, and I say, did you just put your foot on me? I said, I got to go. I got up, and I signed myself out of the facilities against what they didn't suggest, but there was no way I had to leave because I was wanting to do something to him. And I knew if I did something to him that I would really lose then. I would really lose then. God knows I have been biding my time and praying that I would get a chance to expose those people for what they really are. And I'm not afraid to die. You can kill me, you can do whatever you want. You can't break my damn spirit.
What is your word to the young people today?
Don't spill your blood. Matter of fact, I have something I would like to share with them if I can find it right quick.
You want me to...
Stop it, please. And yes, I have something I would like to share with you. This is the only thing that helped me to maintain my sanity, and it was writing. And I have some very bitter poet, whatever. Poetry. And I would like to share some with you, and if by some chance I get tie-tongue or twisted, just bear with me. I call this Uncle Sham. And it starts off, checkmate, Michael rowed the boat ashore, and he volunteered to expose the beast of which America refused to keep on a leash. I must slay that beast because he only continues to nurture racism and injustice. This only divides us by the dawn's early light. I came home and still had to fight. It's not right. Give us the teaching of His Majesty. We don't want your devil philosophy. To hell with your philosophy. We are tired of living on our knees. Why can't we get rid of that disease? I'm begging you, please. The South is going to rise again. Hell, it never fell. Now they hold highfalutin positions, and they conduct the rebel yell from afar. I don't have a chance with the tactics they use. I will only continue to lose. Be all you can be. Ha, ha, ha. See how your double standards have destroyed me, my kids' kids. Feel my pain. The double standards continue to drive me insane. If you see the recruiters, run like a runaway slave. Don't spill your blood. You will be better off without Uncle Jim Crow. I mean Uncle Sam. We can be black and proud without him. Say it loud. I am black and I am proud.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And I mean it, damn it.
Amen to that. And he's had an opportunity to express himself through poetry. He writes poetry practically every day. He's at home, and he's a man that has a lot of feeling for people, and for his own people, especially his own that have not had the opportunities of so many others. And now we're looking at the situations of the young men who have lost their lives in various situations, starting in Florida with Trayvon Martin. And then we moved on up. We've had the same situation out in Ferguson, a similar, and now we're having the situation in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I didn't leave out South Carolina. That's another one. So do you have anything that you would like to say concerning what is going on in our country at this time?
What I would like to say is, like I say, to maintain my sanity, I also cry a lot, as you can see. Mm-hmm. There's a trail of tears from my life, and to see what they do to the young black men. And I mean, it has been going on for so long, but thank God technology has helped us in our battle. And the phones that record, they show and have true, evidence that you can see. And I am just appalled. I cannot believe that this is what our young men go off and fight for. Freedom and justice? Is this what you call freedom and justice? Shooting somebody in the back and making an extra stop down the road to break somebody's spine? Yeah, it's...
And killing a 12-year-old.
Yeah, killing a 12-year-old without even thinking about it. I mean, it happened so fast, and just so many that I cannot begin to recollect all of them. It's just, and I get so sick and tired of it because it'll be another one this week. It's so regular, and that I am just appalled that there are soldiers posted up right now fighting for this country. And look at how they treat us. Look at how they continue to treat us. And I know that there's some good people in America. I know. And I'm calling on the abolitionists to come back and help me. Please, please. Something has got to be done. When you don't learn from your mistakes, you are bound to repeat them again. And there's a modern day civil war going on right now, as well as modern day slavery, McDonald's. And how can you provide for your family when the playing field will never be leveled? And it's only because they are afraid of their past, what they have done, how they have treated us. We are forgiving people. We are not looking back. We want to look forward, but we want to be treated fair. We want to be treated fair. If we're not wise enough to be in that position or make the cut, then maybe the next man will. But that is not the problem. We are well qualified. And I know that's what you are afraid of. That's what you are afraid of, white America. That's what you are afraid of. Your past. How can you tell us not to whoop and discipline our kids, but you shoot them down in the streets? And if I recollect, you whooped my ancestors' ass to control them and to build America and to build America's economy, apparently for free. We don't want no damn reparations or whatever they call it. Just damn it, treat me fair. I'm not asking you to give me a damn thing. Open up the door and I will get it myself. Yes, America, you are. It's sad. Uncle Sham. It's a sham that you, well, better yet, brainwashing 101. Yeah, that's what it is. be all you can be. How can I be all that I can be when you put your foot on me? You tell me racist jokes. Oh, and yeah, I went to the doctor. One of my testicles had swollen up, and went to the doctor. First doctor I seen, he asked me, say, well, does it hurt? I said, no, not really. He said, well, don't worry about it. It'll be all right. And my testicles kept, getting a little bit bigger. And one of my lady friends told me, said, you better go back to the doctor or something. So I went back to the doctor, and thank God, this doctor was a true American. He told me that I had a hydrocele and that it needed to be taken care of right away. And as for the doctor before him, they think it funny to mistreat black people, and then they get in their circles and they laugh and joke about it. That's who desecrate the flag. That's who desecrate the flag. That's who desecrated. Me, I love America, but I get no love in return. But I salute my brothers who have been brainwashed and are fighting for what they believe to be a worthy cause. But brothers, when you get back, you will see how much love they have for you. You will see. All you will get is lip service. Yeah, they say they care. They, thank you for serving. Some people say it and mean it. And that always make my day, because I know there are some true good Americans. But if we don't soon weed out this beast and keep him on a leash with his double standards and his hidden racism, he continues to desecrate the flag and destroy in part our country. United States. Yeah, right. Okay, we united. That's, I think, what they call an oxymoron, or oxy something. It says one thing, but it means the total opposite. And we not united. And they go, the South's going to rise again. Hell, it has never failed. It is hidden racism. They conduct their misdeeds and double racism from afar. And it continues to fester at the pit of our nation. And as you see, with all the unjust killings and on TV, countless people just being murdered. And the police was so quick to say, stop resisting. When I know from experience, because it happened to me in Daytona, they only say that to beat the crap out of you, to try and get the attention of who's ever watching that you are resisting. And you can see plain on a lot of the situations that the people are cooperating and not resisting, and they just beat the hell out of them and kill them in some cases. America, take a look in the damn mirror. Do you like what you see? I'm not so proud of it. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of you, America. Liberty and justice. Oh my God. Uncle Sham, Uncle Jim Crow, and Lady Liberty. Man, feed it to the bulldogs. Time out.
I want to thank you this afternoon for taking your time. We've covered a lot of issues, all the way from the birth of yourself and your siblings, coming from Georgia, Fitzgerald, Georgia, to Florida. And then from Florida, going through middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, into the military.
Yes, ma'am.
And then from the military over to Greece, while in the military.
Yes,
returning back to the Midwest and struggling to make ends meet with your family.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
losing part of your family in the process.
Yes, ma'am.
And then going into the military, hospitals and so forth for care. And the care was not given in a way that would be respected.
Yes, ma'am.
To go into a situation where you are no longer with good mind and given medications would cause one to respond differently. But today, you have been able to come out from under those medicines. You are married again. You have a chance to go forward. You smile. You enjoy people.
Thank you, Jesus.
You enjoy issues. And you are able to talk about these issues. And hopefully from this tape that we've done today, it will have some bearing on our young, especially our young men, because they are the ones that are really getting shot down in the streets and in everywhere else. The women, yes, we have our problems too. But we need to realize that America is for everyone.
Yes.
It's not just for the chosen. It's for all. And those who have done so much to bring this country to where it is, they need to be respected and honored as a few have been. And we will close in just a minute by saying that we have a black president, which we all know. And I'd like for you to make a statement in regards to our president, Barack Obama.
Dear Mr. President, I would like for you to feel my pain, wear my shoes, Had you went through the same, I have two daughters as well as you, President, and had you had to lose your family, and just figure out that if you were going through all the double standards that I have been through, and Michelle took doubts in your manhood about providing and left you and took your kids, I know that would tear your heart apart, because it tore my heart apart when I lost my family because of the double standards and the injustice out at the VA in Gainesville on a federal reservation. So, Obama, I would ask you to just see, can you wear my moccasins and tell me, what would you have done? Would you have been able to suppress your anger as I have by writing the way writing? But yeah, I love my girls more than you love yours. And that's why I thank God for letting me tell this story about the double standards and how they destroyed my family. The ripple effect of how they treated me with their double standards, the ripple effect has affected my kids' kids. Yeah, that's no fun, Mr. President. No fun.
Well, I think all of us love our kids, and you can't say really that you love yours more than he loves his, because love is love, especially the love bonded between parents.
Forgive me, Mr. President.
I understand exactly what you were trying to get across at that time. And we really appreciate you today to allowing us to come into your home and sit with you and talk with you. And the forgiveness, I'm sure he will definitely accept.
I am very bitter, and I have poetry to show, and that one that I read is one of many. And
yes, and that you're interested in putting this information out and making it available to others in the form of a book or other media.
Yes, ma'am. The world should know.
We want the world to understand that everybody has a right to speak. And definitely you have a right, because you've gone through some situations that many people need to know about.
Yes, ma'am.
And the only way for them to know about it is to listen and learn from others. So I thank you today. Today is Thursday, April 30th, 2015, Gainesville, Florida. My name is Sherrod DuPree. And would you give your name again, please?
My name is Michael Henry Harris. And I'd like to salute the president, and I'd like to salute all my fellow comrades that are not racist. For those, this salute does not include you.
Thank you.